Okay, greetings, YouTube visitors and brothers and sisters in Christ. Welcome to another edition of Around the World News. I'm going to combine a couple of days' data into one video. So we're going to be covering the last couple of days, and instead of going every night like I have been sometimes, I'm just going to throw it all together in one package for you. All right, well, here's an interesting data fact. How many homeless people do you suppose are in Los Angeles County? Just take a guess. 5,000? 10,000? Or 20,000? More? Believe it or not, there are 58,000 homeless people in LA County. Yeah, because California's weather is nice and sunny and warm, and people come from the East Coast, especially in the wintertime, to come out to California to hang out and beg for money on the streets. Some of them, not all of them. A lot of them support their drug habits and their alcohol and cigarette smoking and things like that. All right, I'm just going to scroll down and okay, let's see what we got here. Ever wonder why we never go to war or impose sanctions on the sponsors of terrorism? We don't even condemn them. What goes through a reader's mind when they see an article titled Accepting Al-Qaeda that is published by the Council on Foreign Relations, the think tank behind U.S. foreign policy, or when Hillary Clinton's chief foreign policy advisor wrote to her, Al-Qaeda is on our side, ? Terrorism is the problem, fear is the reaction, and government is the solution. Right. Well, that's what the government wants you to believe. So that they can expand their power and control over you. Terrorism and crime give us the chance to militarize the police in the European Union, create an NSA, National Security Administration, for entire Europe and even a European army. The financial burden caused by refugees also allows us to impose austerity and cut wasteful welfare spending. Mass immigration will also result in a more homogeneous European society. 20 years from now, there won't be much difference between France and Germany. This means much easier management of the EU. Moving forward, the biggest economic challenge for us will be China. However, it has an Achilles heel, the western province of, I can't even pronounce this word, Xinjiang. Xinjiang? I don't know Chinese, but this is a tough one anyway. That is predominantly made up of Muslims. With help from Turkey, we have already created in X, I'm just going to call it X, an Islamist movement that is calling for secession. China's One Belt, One Road is very dependent on freight arms safety traveling through that region on their way to Europe. Our future mujahideen in X will come in handy if China starts to misbehave. It took us about 60 years to unify North and South America to a great degree under a common financial, corporate, economic, and military system. Venezuela is the odd man out, but we're working on it. Now listen to this. It may take another 60 years to unify Europe, Russia, and China. Then we will have global governance and the ultimate new world order. No borders and no walls. One world. In bringing that to fruition, we have many arrows in our quiver. Trade, financial/military aid, coups, color revolutions, sanctions, wars, etc. But Islamic terrorism and fundamentalism will continue playing indispensable roles, and that's why we must accept them and embrace them. Unquote. That's by Joel Skelton in an article entitled Islamic Terrorism, Our Ally for 38 Years in his worldaffairs.blog. Oh, wow. Islamic terrorism is an ally, a workman for the elite globalist New World Order. Yeah, this is what I've been suspecting. Of course, they're going to use it against the Christians primarily. Because as I've been saying all along, this war is against Christianity. It's against Christ and his seed, against the believers. And here's from the editor, Arie McMaster, in his newsletter. Nothing justifies the elite globalist establishment of a total surveillance state, the elimination of individual freedoms and civil liberties, the instituting of draconian controls over the entire population by a militarized police state. The accumulation of power at the elite centralized core creates the opportunities for endless military misadventures by power-mad neocons and generates the profits for the military/industrial complex in perpetuity, like the so-called war on terrorism, particularly one created to justify the before-mentioned actions. It is Hegel's dialectic in practice. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis, with a bigger, more elite, more technocratic, more centralized tyrannical police state. More elite, more technocratic, more centralized tyrannical police state over the beneficiary of the synthesis. Playing on people's fears, as fear of terrorism does, causes people to give up their God-given freedoms, their rights and freedoms to the state without a whimper, trading in their freedom for the false promise of state-generated security. Fear used to be un-American, but that was when Americans had faith in God rather than the state, and took the risk of responsibility for their own lives and individual destinies. Of course, the psychopaths and sociopaths attracted to the addiction of governmental power over others who have surrendered theirs don't give a darn about the safety, security, and welfare of the unwashed masses. Just ask the common people of Ukraine what it is like to live under the iron thumb of the billionaire oligarchs who rule there. In Ukraine, there is no middle class. Just the 0.1% super rich oligarchs, the rich corporate minions, and the dirt poor peasants. That is the globalist model for the rest of the world under the sociopathic billionaire oligarchs, transnational corporations, and central bank model. And then a little blurb here by Charles Hugh Smith in an article titled "Why We're Fragmenting." And I quote, "The nation is fracturing and fragmenting because the status quo is failing the majority of the citizenry. The protected few are reaping all the benefits of the status quo at the expense of the unprotected many. This unsustainable asymmetry is the only possible outcome of our socio-economic system, which is dominated by these forces. 1. Globalization, free flow of capital, labor arbitrage. 2. Nearly free money from central banks for financiers and corporations. 3. Pay-to-play democracy. 4. State-protected cartels that privatize gains and socialize losses. 5. A system stripped of self-correcting feedback and accountability. Once you understand the inputs and structure, you realize there is no other possible output other than unsustainably expanding debt and wealth/income inequality. Policy tweaks cannot change the output. All they do is provide an illusion of reform that serves the need of those at the top to obscure the systemic injustices and unsustainability of the extractive, exploitative, predatory, parasitic system that's enriching them. What do people do when centralized systems fail to deliver what was promised? They fragment into smaller tribes and find fewer reasons to cooperate in centralized systems." Unquote. Wow. I've stopped calling what our government has done a cover-up. Cover-up suggests a massive activity. What they're doing now I call aggressive deception. And that's what former Senator Bob Graham, co-chair of Congress's 911 Joint Inquiry, said. All right, and then we have Joel Skelton again from his World Affairs brief dated May 26, 2017, and I quote, "The perpetrator is reported to be a second-generation Libyan immigrant to the UK, Salman Abedi, who the government claims was radicalized in the UK and then traveled to Libya with his father and brother, where he obtained training from ISIS in being a suicide bomber. ISIS claimed responsibility in a Facebook post, which was inconsistent with its prime motivation to alienate the entire world, as only a false terrorist group would do. But British linguist Alex Thompson and others fluent in several related languages pointed out There's a problem with the accent of this claimed ISIS agent who masked his whole face in the video, perhaps so you can't see the non-Arab color of his eyes or brows. All of this adds to the evidence that ISIS is a U.S./British intelligence operation. Well, yeah, the United States created ISIS probably, with maybe in conjunction with Israel. They say that ISIS stands for the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. I don't know for sure, but that's what I've been told. There's a few YouTube videos to that effect. Continuing, all of this adds to the evidence that ISIS, okay, I've already said that. This ISIS spokesman on the Facebook video was not Arab, and he's trying desperately to cover his real identity and language. In summary, a simple, nondescript boy like Salman doesn't travel regularly to Libya and come back to be a suicide bomber without receiving training from known terror groups and be known to intelligence agencies who track every single person who travels by train or plane. Suicide bombers also have to undergo a long pattern of indoctrination or mind control or hypnosis. I have long made the case that ISIS is a U.S.-British intelligence operation, and his association with ISIS had to have been known to intelligence agencies and perhaps directed by them from afar. That doesn't mean at all that Abidi knew he was dealing with a government-run terrorist organization who does active recruitment among young, unstable Muslims. The father and 2 of Salman's brothers have been arrested, having known about his radical activities. I'm sure there's more to discover in the future, but nothing that points to government agent provocateurs will surface, especially since he's now dead and no trial or legal discovery